Lagos, a city of contrasts, where the vibrant rhythms of life coexist with the dark whispers of the past. In this world of ancient curses and modern ambition, one woman's faith will become entwined with the secrets of the powerful Adebayo family. Welcome to Betrayed by the Heart, a tale of love, power, and the true cost of destiny. In Lagos, where old meets new, where spirits walk among smartphones and skyscrapers, there is a saying, what the eyes can't see, the heart must not love. But no one told this to Aisha. Aisha was different from other girls in Lagos. She was born with a gift. She could see what others couldn't. The old woman in her family called it the sight. When she looked at people, sometimes she saw shadows dancing around them, spirits hovering near them. Her grandmother told her this gift was passed down through the woman in their family, but only to those strong enough to bear its burden. Growing up, Aisha learned to hide her gift. She became a successful app developer, creating software by day and practicing ancient rituals by night. Her world never mixed until the day she met Victor Adebayo. The Adebayo family wasn't just rich, they were powerful in ways that money couldn't measure. Their skyscraper stood tallest in Lagos, but old market women whispered about darker things, a family curse, a price paid for their success, a shadow that followed their bloodline. Victor Adebayo had everything a man could want except love. The curse was clear. Any woman who married into their family for love would die before her first child was born. For generations, the Adebayos survived through arranged marriages, loveless unions that kept the curse at bay. Victor had accepted his fate until that rainy Tuesday at the Lagos Tech Summit. When Aisha walked into the stage to present her new app, Victor felt something he'd never felt before. But it was what Aisha saw that changed everything. While everyone else saw that handsome heir to the Adebayo fortune, she saw the dark shadows circling him like hungry spirits. And for the first time in her life, her gift became a curse because those shadows saw her too. Their first conversation was like a match struck in darkness. Victor was drawn to her brilliance, her quiet confidence. Aisha was pulled in by his gentle soul, trapped beneath layers of family burden. But when their hands touched, Aisha's gift showed her a vision that made her blood run cold. A line of women, all dead before their time, all wearing the Adebayo family ring. Back home, Aisha's grandmother saw the change in her. "Child," she warned, "some families carry weights that even love can't lift." But Aisha knew something her grandmother didn't. In her vision, she had seen something else, a possible way to break the curse. But the price? It might cost her not just her life, but her soul. One night changed everything. At the rooftop restaurant where Victor took Aisha for her birthday, the champagne in their glasses turned to blood. Only Aisha could see it. When she looked up into Victor's eyes to warn him, she saw something that stopped her breath, A dark figure standing behind him, wearing his great grandfather's face, smiling with teeth made of shadows. That same night in her family home, Aisha's grandmother collapsed. They found her in the shrine room, surrounded by scattered cowrie shells, clutching a worn letter written in 1923. Her last words before falling unconscious: "They will come for you now. They know what you are." In the hospital, while machines beeped and doctors rushed, Aisha's Gift showed her the truth. Dark spirits circled her grandmother's bed, whispering secrets. The Adebayo curse wasn't just killing lovers. It was feeding on their souls. Each death made the family more powerful and more wealthy, and now the spirits were hungry again. Victor's mother, Fulami, knew more than she let on. Every night she lit 3 candles for her dead friends, all wives of Adebayo men, all found dead in ways that looked natural. But on their dying day, each woman had tried to call Fulami. Each had tried to warn her about what they had discovered. Now, watching her son fall in love, she made a choice that would shake both families to their core. When Fulami reached out to the family's ancient spiritual advisor, she found the old man dead, 3 days dead, yet still sitting in his chair, his unseeing eyes fixed on a page of warnings about a girl with second sight who would come, about how she must be stopped or the spirit collectors would lose everything. But most terrifying was what Aisha discovered in her grandmother's letter. The curse wasn't just about love or power, it was about destiny. Her own grandmother had once loved an Adebayo man. She had given him up to save his life. Now, 2 generations later, the spirit had drawn her granddaughter into the same deadly dance. But this time, the stakes were higher. The letter spoke of a prophecy. At the next solar eclipse, either the curse would be broken forever, or it would grow stronger enough to claim not just lovers, but entire bloodlines. What no one knew yet was that forces were already in motion. In the highest floor of Adebayo Tower, a sacred room held decades of dark contracts with the spirit world. And someone had just broken in, someone who had been waiting years to destroy everything. As alarms silently blared, they left behind a message written in dead language only Aisha could read. Your love or their lives. Choose wisely. The next morning, Lagos woke to chaos. Every mirror in Adebayo Tower had shattered at exactly 3:33 a.m. Security cameras showed nothing, but Aisha's grandmother, still unconscious in the hospital, began writing symbols in the air with her fingers, symbols that matched the ancient contracts exactly. Victor hadn't slept in days. Strange dreams plagued him, visions of all the women who had died loving Adebayo men. But now they weren't just faces in old photographs. In his dreams, they spoke to him, tried to warn him. Each morning he woke to find his sheets soaked in sweat and his family ring turned in dark shades of gold. But it was the message that changed everything. When Aisha finally decoded it, her hands trembled. It wasn't just a threat, it was a riddle. To break what was bound in blood, it read, a sacrifice of sight must be made, but beware, the spirits are collectors and they never leave empty-handed. The truth hit her like a bolt of lightning. The spirits hadn't cursed the Adebayos, they had made a contract. Each generation, they collected souls of those who dared to love truly, feeding on their life force. But Aisha's second sight showed her what no man else had seen before. The spirits were building power for something bigger, something that would happen during the eclipse. That's when Victor's mother made her move. She appeared at Aisha's office with a box. Inside was her wedding ring and a letter signed in blood. "I know what you are," she said, tears in her eyes, "and I know what you are planning. But there is something you don't know about the eclipse ritual, something that will destroy not just you but everyone you love." But before Fulami could reveal more, the lights in the building went out. When they came back on seconds later, she was gone. In her place sat the box, now open and empty except for the new message. Some sacrifices are too great to make. Some loves are too dangerous to allow. That night in her small apartment, Aisha packed what she thought she would need for the ritual. Her hands moved over sacred items passed down through generations, cowrie shells, ancient herbs, her grandmother's ritual cloth. Each item hummed with power she could no longer fully sense. Outside her window, a storm gathered unnaturally fast over Lagos. In the shadows of her room, unseen spirits watched and whispered, "She doesn't know." They hissed. The sight-blind lambs walked willing to slaughter. But one spirit, newer than the rest, wearing the face of Victor's last dead fiancé, moved closer to Aisha, though Aisha couldn't see her through Fulami's spell. The spirit managed to knock a small mirror from the shelf. It shattered in a pattern that spelled a warning, but Aisha, her sight clouded, saw only a broken glass. Meanwhile, in a secret chamber beneath Adebayo Tower, Victor and Fulami made their final preparations. Ancient chains marked with symbols that could bind both flesh and spirit were cleaned and blessed with dark oils. "Remember," Fulami told her son, "she must step into the circle willingly. The spirits demand conscious sacrifice." Victor's hand trembled slightly as he arranged the ceremonial terms. For a moment, doubt crossed his face, a memory of Aisha's smile, her kindness, her brilliance. But Fulami saw his hesitation. "The family or love," she reminded him sharply. "Choose wrongly and we lose everything. The spirits will take not just our wealth, but the souls of every Adebayo, past, present, and future." The day of the eclipse arrived with an unnatural darkness as Aisha descended into the depths of Adebayo Tower with Victor. Each step took them deeper into the earth's ancient memory. The air grew thick with the weight of old magic and old sins. Victor held her hand, playing the devoted love, while behind them, shadows slithered along the walls like hungry serpents. In her hospital room, Aisha's grandmother's eyes snapped open. She tried to scream a warning, but no sound came. The machines around her began to malfunction. Their screens displayed not numbers, but ancient symbols of danger. A nurse, rushing to check on her, stopped short at the doorway. For a moment, she could have sworn she saw hundreds of women in wedding dresses standing around the old woman's bed, all pointing urgently towards Adebayo Tower. The ancient chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness. Pillars carved with the faces of watching ancestors rose like silent guardians. At its center lay a circle of power, marked in symbols older than Lagos itself. As they entered, unseen by Aisha, hundreds of spirit collectors moved into position, their forms made of shadow and hunger. Fulami emerged from behind a pillar, holding what appeared to be a ritual book. "Welcome, my dear," she said warmly. Her words dripped with false honey. "Are you ready to break the curse and join our family?" The chamber's torches flickered as if laughing at the lie. "Stand in the circle," Victor guided gently, his mask of love perfectly even in this final moment. "The ritual requires you to be at its heart." Aisha stepped forward, trusting completely. As she crossed the circle's boundary, the ground began to hum with dark energy. Suddenly, Fulami's warm smile twisted into something cruel. The book in her hands burst into black flames, revealing its true nature, not a ritual text, but a binding contract with the spirit collectors. Victor's gentle grip on Aisha's arm became iron, and the loving light in his eyes extinguishing like a candle in the wind. "Foolish girl," Fulami laughed, her voice echoing with supernatural power. "Did you think a mere app developer could win the heart of an Adebayo? Your sight made you special, yes, special enough to feed our spirits for 100 years. As chains of dark energy began to rise from the circle, something extraordinary happened. In the hospital, Aisha's grandmother sat up suddenly, her eyes blazing with power. Every mirror in Lagos cracked at once, and through these cracks, the spirit world began to bleed through. The binding spell in Aisha's sight shattered like glass. She saw everything now, the true horror of the Adebayo legacy, the countless souls trapped in their tower of wealth, the dark things wearing Victor's great-grandfather's face that pulled the family strings. But most importantly, she saw what none of the Adebayos had ever noticed. The spirit collectors had a weakness. Aisha's voice, when she spoke, carried the weight of generations. "You forgot something," she said, as power began to pulse from her grandmother's cowrie shell necklace. "My grandmother didn't run from the Adebayo man because she was afraid. She ran because she saw this moment. She saw me." The spirit collectors shrieked as ancient light began to pour from the cowrie shells. This light was different from their darkness. It was the light of truth, of memory, of stories passed down through generations of strong women. And in this light, the collected souls of all the Adebayo brides began to wake up. The chamber erupted into chaos as Aisha's power surged. The awakened brides, their spirits now free from the collector's grasp, formed a circle around her. Each one's story, their love, their betrayal, their sacrifice added to her strength. Victor stumbled back, his carefully instructed mask crumbling as he witnessed true power for the first time. "Mother," he whispered, "what have we done?" But Fulami wasn't listening. She had begun a dark incantation, desperate to maintain control. The spirit collectors swirled around her like a tornado of shadows, their forms merging into something ancient and terrible, the true face of the thing that had corrupted the Adebayo line. Above Lagos, the eclipse began. Darkness crept across the sun, and as it did, both light and shadow powers grew stronger. The thing made of spirit collectors roared with voices from the 1,000 dead deals laughing, longing at Aisha with claws made of broken promises and stolen years. But Aisha stood firm. Each cowrie shell on her necklace blazed like a star, and in their light, she saw the truth that had been hidden for generations. The Adebayo curse wasn't just about power, it was about balance. For every soul taken, a debt was owed to the universe, and now that debt was due. "I don't want your wealth," Aisha declared, her voice carrying the power of truth. "I don't want revenge, I want justice." She raised her hands, and as she did, every mirror shared in Lagos rose into the air. Through each piece, the city's people caught glimpses of the spirit world, of the true cost of the Adebayo fortune. The spirit collectors screamed as their secrets were exposed to the light. In the hospital, Aisha's grandmother opened her eyes and began to sing an ancient song of binding and release. The melody carried through the spirit world, and one by one, the trapped souls began to break free, and the eclipse reached its peak. Victor found himself at the heart of the storm. The spirit that wore his great-grandfather's face appeared before him, offering one last deal: your love or your legacy. Choose now, boy. But watching Aisha stand against generations of darkness, Victor finally saw clearly. "Neither," he declared, stepping away from his mother and towards Aisha. "I choose truth." The moment he spoke these words, the chains of dark magic that had bound the Adebayo line for generations began to crack. Fulami screamed in rage as her son turned away from their legacy. She lunged forward, dark power crackling around her hands, determined to complete the sacrifice herself. But the spirit collectors, sensing their impending defeat, turned on their former allies. As above, so below, just as the moon began to move away from the sun, the shadows began to consume themselves. Aisha raised her grandmother's cowrie shells one final time. "A sacrifice of sight must be made," she recited, understanding at last what the prophecy truly meant. She had to sacrifice not her physical sight, but her blindness to hard truth. "I see you," she declared to the darkness, "all of you, and you have no power here anymore." When the light faded and the dust settled, the chamber was transformed. The spirit collectors were gone, their dark contracts reduced to ashes. The souls they had promised over generations drifted upward like sparks from a flame, finally free to find peace. Fulami knelt in the ruins of her power, aged decades in moments as the dark magic left her. Victor approached Aisha slowly, humbled and human at last. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said quietly, "but I hope you will let me spend my life making amends, not just to you, but to all those we've wronged." Sunrise found Aisha at her grandmother's hospital bed, holding the old woman's hand as she finally awoke. The city of Lagos was forever changed, not just by what people had glimpsed through the broken mirrors, but by the shift in power they could feel in their bones. The Adebayo Tower stood cleansed of its darkness, its shadows now just shadows again. Victor began the long work of transformation, using his family's wealth not to feed spirits but to heal wounds, building hospitals, schools, and homes. Some said that on quiet night, the spirits of the brides could still be seen walking the city streets, not in sorrow anymore, but as guardians, ensuring that such darkness never took root again. And Aisha, she kept her sight, sharper than ever, but now she didn't walk alone. She had proven that true love wasn't about power, sacrifice, or wealth, it was about the courage to confront the darkness, to stand in your truth, and to see each other for who you truly are. Together with Victor, she began to rewrite not just their story, but the legacy of an entire family, proving that even in the shadows of curses, light could prevail.